You're right, Harry?
Yeah, good, Anton. How are you?
Good, man. Thank you very much, man. All good. Let's go
Good.
live then, and hopefully the others will join us too.
Sounds good.
Good stuff. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Startup Talent Q&A. We do this every Monday from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And we're here to help startups like yourselves with whatever questions you may have in terms of that journey of yours to go from startup to scale up. Alex, if you'd like to come up, you would need to raise your hand since you didn't accept the speaker role, and then I'll bring you up. So the idea is quite simple. You see, unfortunately, over 90% of startups fail. And the top three reasons for that are one, market fit, two, running out of money, and three, not having the right people. But I guess when you really look deep into it, there couldn't be anything more important than the right people, because those are the people that can give you market fit or mess it up for you, or can find the money or not be able to. So in terms of how this works is that once we get the introductions out the way, all you need to do then is raise your hand. We'll bring you up on stage. You introduce yourself and then fire away with whatever questions you have for us. By the way, there are no right or wrong questions, and there's no need to be shy. It's a learning curve for us all. Your questions today could be on anything to do with startup talent, from perhaps, let's say, where to find the right people, how to go about interviewing them, how to go about convincing them that you're the right company that they should join, to maybe how to work up a contract, or if you've had any challenges in terms of perhaps somebody threatening to take you to court, or all that jazz. This is the place to be. This is the place to ask the questions. I've got some brilliant panelists with us today, and they're going to take whatever questions we throw at them. If, by the way, your questions today are not on startup talent, please save them for the other conversations we run. So to give you an idea, we host 4 regular rooms per week. On Mondays, it's talent. On Tuesdays, it's product and tech. On Wednesdays, it's growth. And on Thursdays, it's fundraising. And they're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. For those of you that are tuning in via YouTube or Facebook, please remember that we are unfortunately unable to monitor your questions there. So you would need to join us live here on LinkedIn in order to for us to take your questions. You can do that either by going to our site, startuptoscaleup.club. It's our 139th session. So Startup Talent Q&A 139, that's what you need to click there. Or you can just search for Startup to Scale Up Club here on LinkedIn. And the last post, it's today's session, which, by the way, today's session, it's the last for 2024. And then we resume on the 13th of January. Nevertheless, some quick introductions, and then we'll open it for questions. My name's Anton Cole. I'm an Albanian in London working with startups. Normally, right after they get investment, I embed within their teams and help them hire and keep the right people. I also do some growth advisory for a few other startups. And lately, I've been helping some angels and family offices with their due diligence and assessments. And I guess we can start with the ladies, Alex, Margaret, and then Harry, please.
Great. I'm Alex. As you already mentioned, Anton, thank you so much for having me here. I would consider myself as a recruiting expert with over 13 years of recruitment experiences, mostly focused on high growth companies. So I built up companies from 0 up to 5,000 people with the help of a team, obviously, not on my own. So everything what belongs to recruitment, when it comes to recruitment processes, back to leadership development and also a development of teams, I'm probably your person.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Alex.
Hi everyone, my name is Margaret Buj. I have been working in recruitment for close to 20 years. During that time, I've recruited for technology companies of different sizes, both startups from Series A to D, and also for large tech companies such as Microsoft, VMware, or Expedia. I've recruited very internationally across all different functions, all corporate functions and engineering. Right now, I'm a principal recruiter at a SaaS company called 𝗦𝘁𝗿𝗄, and I also do a lot of interview training and coaching. So happy to help with anything related to hiring and interviewing.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Last but not least, Harry, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Harry Abrams. I'm a partner in the employment team at the London law firm J&W. I've been advising startup and fast growth companies on all people issues for 10 years or so. My advice ranges from the initial weeks of recruiting someone, so helping with the contract and the onboarding, and any legal issues that come up during employment, such as disciplinary issues, performance management issues, sickness absence issues, and then advising on how to lawfully terminate an employee and then deal with any post-termination restriction issues or any litigation that follows that employment. And as always, I'm looking forward to answering any questions we may have today.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, all three of you. And speaking of legal advice, Harry has been kind enough with a few others to volunteer to start a startup legal Q&A, which will be focused on UK law, obviously. And we will start doing that on a monthly basis, the second Friday of every month at 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. So same time as these other weekly ones, but this will only be every second Friday of the month. Now, for those of you that are tuning in, that I can see on Facebook and YouTube, I think I can see actually. Let me just double check the signal here. But if just a reminder that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions there. So if you do have any questions for us, you will need to join us live here on LinkedIn. And you can do that either by going to our website, startuptoscaleup.club, or by simply coming here onto LinkedIn and searching for Startup to Scale Up Club. The last post there, it's today's session. Now, whilst we're getting ready for some questions on talent and hiring and keeping the right people, perhaps the three brilliant panelists would like to give us their main do's and don'ts when it comes to early stage hiring. So perhaps we can go in the same order that we joined. So Harry, Alex, and then Margaret, please.
Oh, sorry, Anton. Do you mind just repeating that? It just cut out.
No, that's okay, buddy. What are your biggest do's and don'ts if clients come to you and ask you for their biggest do's and don'ts from a legal perspective when it comes to early stage hiring? What are the things you would advise them?
Sure, of course. So one of my biggest do's is always to be decisive. So if you hire an employee and you can tell quite early on or really at any point that it is the wrong hire, one of the worst things you can do is hesitate on that decision, because whether it's a cultural clash issue or performance issue in a small startup community, that can have quite a negative effect and can spread quite quickly through your workforce. So my view is act quickly, and if you don't, then the mistake of the hiring of the person can actually be superseded by the impact that they have by you waiting to see if they improve or waiting for a suitable replacement. In regards to my biggest don't for a startup, it's probably not looking too far ahead and hire what the company needs at this exact moment, rather than hiring someone where you hope to be in 12 months, 18 months, or even 3 years' time. So the example I always give is if you're looking for someone to look after the finance arm of the business, when you're small, you can probably employ a finance director, for example. But what you shouldn't be doing early on is looking for a sort of a CFO or something like that, because they may not even have the right skills to really kind of pull their sleeves up and get working with the micro levels of the finance issues that come with a startup.
So from me, I would say one of the do's would be to hire for cultural fit and potential, especially when you're hiring one of your, first 5, first 10, first 15 employees. You probably it's obviously going to be harder to an extent to find people who have like everything, on your checklist. So I would just say that apart from the skill set, look for people who share your company vision and can grow with your startup. So I remember when I worked for a B2B SaaS company startup, which was probably 60 people when I joined, so maybe bigger than some of the companies here. But like most of the people who were hired, the first employees, they were actually not maybe that experienced, but they just were really hardworking, really committed. They shared the vision, and most of them have done so well in their careers. Like they've progressed really well in that startup. They had a chance to grow, and they've done extremely well in their careers since leaving the company. So sometimes that potential and the cultural fit might be more important than having every skill on your checklist. Definitely use personal networks and referrals to find high quality candidates who come with trusted recommendations. Good people know good people. So even when you hire someone good, you can even just sit down with them one day, at lunchtime, and just go through the LinkedIn and ask, who do you know who might be a good fit for your specific company. And definitely keep the recruitment process efficient and transparent. Very lengthy hiring timelines can deter strong candidates in competitive markets, and you obviously want to do a proper interview process and maybe give them some task to see how they think or a presentation, but at the same time it really shouldn't take 2 months to hire someone or even longer. And also in terms of don'ts, don't overpromise. So really be honest about where your company is in terms of resources and challenges, because if you mislead to candidates, they're most likely going to leave. That's going to lead to dissatisfaction and high turnover. So it's really important that you are honest. And also don't compromise on the core values of the company. So if you hire someone just for the skill set, if they don't align with the company mission or culture, that's probably not going to work out long term, and that kind of mismatch can disrupt the team dynamics. So yeah, I wouldn't compromise on core values. And a final one, I would just say, like, avoid rushing hires just to fill positions quickly. So I mentioned on one hand, you don't want to have a process that's too lengthy, but on the other hand, you don't want to rush either. So a poor hire can really cost you a lot of time, money, and also morale in a small team. So that would be my 3 do's and don'ts.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Margaret. Yes, Alex.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, just a little bit more to add. I think also when it comes to, and Margaret already mentioned this, like have a efficient interview recruitment process. What I saw in the last couple of years, especially in scale-ups and startups, they are kind of over-engineering the process because they are not 100% sure how to assess a candidate. And if you are not sure, just make sure that you ask the right questions, but not put more people into the interview funnel, interview panel. So here, yeah, stay lean and efficient. This is what I would say. And also try also, and this is also what Margaret just mentioned, maybe sometimes this one candidate is not the ideal fit because of the skill set. They are not bringing in the right experiences, or they are not coming from the right company, or they are not coming from the right university, but they are still very hardworking, and they also can bring or move your company forward, although they are not the ideal candidate. So stay open for this actually. And towards don'ts, make sure, and this is rather I do, but make sure that you are still be GDPR conform, because a lot of companies are forgetting about the lawsuit, and I'm not 100% sure about Great Britain, but here in Germany, it's super important that you are staying up to update with the latest law suits, because it's super important.
Thank you very much for that, Alexandra. We'll bring up Colleen from the audience. So I guess a quick reset of the conversation. For those of you that have just tuned in, this is Startup Talent Q&A. We do this every Monday from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. By the way, today it's our last one for 2024. We then resume on the 13th of January, same time, 12 to 1 p.m. We're here to help startups with whatever questions you may have on your talent journey, whether you want to know how and where to find the right people, how to convince them, how to interview them, how to end up hiring them and giving them a contract, or perhaps how to build your culture or train and empower them, or anything to do with the staffing side of startups. All you have to do is raise your hand, we'll bring you up on stage, introduce yourself, and then fire away with your questions. We've had 270,000 people tune in to our sessions. And since we've changed from Clubhouse to LinkedIn, I guess we need all the help we can get. So please do feel free to share this if you find any value in what goes on here. Share it with people, maybe 10 founders that you think may benefit from getting the right advice. We've got a brilliant panel today with a employment lawyer and two brilliant recruiters and hiring people. So please do feel free to do that. On the other hand, if your questions today are not on talent, please save them for the other rooms or conversations we run on Mondays. Obviously, as you can see, it's talent, but then on Tuesdays it's product and tech, Wednesdays it's growth, and Thursdays it's fundraising, and they're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And in January we'll add two more. They'll be monthly though. One will be a legal Q&A for startups, which will be on the second Friday of each month, 12 to 1 p.m. And the other will be a finances Q&A, which will be on the third Friday of every month, from 12 to 1 p.m. And for those of you tuning in via YouTube or Facebook, please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions there, so you would need to join us here live. You can either go to our site, startuptoscaleup.club, and look for Startup Talent Q&A 139, or just join here on LinkedIn, Startup to Scale Up Club, and the last post there is today's question. But without further ado, Colleen, welcome back to our stage. Please introduce yourself and fire away with any talent questions you may have for us today.
Thanks, Anton, and thanks for having these. They're great when I'm up extra early to listen and learn. I think it's determining where to start looking for talent. If there's any recommendations of where to start. I'm a CEO of a company called 𝗦𝗁𝗿 It's a startup that's very heavy onto the environmental, but more about lean and efficiencies and transforming distribution with new infrastructure and technology to remove packaging. And so we're igniting a wholesale refill revolution designed for businesses and retail customers. Our main objective is selling systems to global industries such as hospitals, airports, universities, military, automotive, you name it. Everyone has to get rid of packaging because removing packaging increases profits for everyone. So determining the custom questions when I'm hiring to determine environmentally strong incentives or with what their true, I need strong environmentalists that are really thinking outside of the box and coming up with the right questions to determine that. So I do have one, and my first one is to determine if they're environmentally strong is, what's your favorite car? I did have an interview once where the interviewer asked me what's my favorite music, and I kind of looked at him and I went, really? I didn't know what that was about, but at the time I had young kids, so I was listening to everything. So it was kind of interesting when he asked that question. I went, what a waste of time. Anyways, what's the answer? Was he trying to see how sophisticated I was? And if I listened to classical music or something? I thought that was kind of weird. Anyways, I'm open to listening to some types of redesigning questions to actually put in the company's mission.
I hear you.
And
And that's a very good point, Colleen. So basically, just to clarify, do you want us to focus on questions to ask to ascertain whether a person's a good fit, or the places to look for?
I think it's starting with customizing my right questions for interviewing to determine. I
That makes
mean,
sense.
history is something that I always will pay attention to. So I think the history and experience is definitely where I focus. So
Good stuff. Thank you very much for that, Colleen. Colleen, I'll give you my quick 2 pence and then pass it on to my experts. I've done for the last few years quite a bit of what they call assessment work. And once this hasn't mainly been for startups, it's mainly been for internationals, government organizations, and so on. But one of the things I like to lead with is what they call star questions that beg star answers. So the idea is you want to ask them to give you an example in their life. It doesn't necessarily have to be work, but it could be on anything else, where they tell you how they dealt with it from an environmental point of view. So STAR in that sort of employment um, view, Colleen, S stands for situation, task at hand, their personal actions, not other people's, and then obviously R for results. What is the results they got? But another question I've always liked, and this is all the way back to my days in recruitment, another question I would like, and I was quite keen on asking candidates, even before sending them to clients, or before sending them, when I say clients, I mean that both in terms of external clients, but also the hiring managers if I was in-house. And it would be something along the lines of, how much money would you need to retire today and never have to work in your life? And I would try and fish it out of them to understand, why do they need that much and not less or more? That would be question number one. Question number two would be, okay, so now you've got all the money you need to never have to work again in your life. You're probably going to do, I don't know, golf, swimming, cruises, whatever it is that you may want to do for the next 3 to 5 years, and then you get bored. Now, after that time, you still don't need the money, but you want to do something. What is it you're going to do? And that's where I would start kind of pulling things apart to understand their investment, their personal and emotional investment in the field that they were applying for. If it was anything related to that, then I knew it was on the right path. I hope that makes sense, Colleen, but I would love to hear from the others here. So perhaps this time we can start with Alex, then Margaret, then Harry.
Great. Hi, Colleen. Very nice to meet you. First of all, I love the business model. I really like it. And then I'm so happy that you, as a female founder, has this brilliant idea actually to bring on the market. So thank you so much for that. Since you are here, and I would love to ask you a question, because what I learned in the early days of my recruitment career is that there is not a favorite question, because of different reasons. But before I go ahead, when you ask a candidate, what is your favorite car, what do you really would like to figure out doing within this one kind of question?
It will determine if they're environmentally conscious. Because if they know what is the number one problem of the world, it's fossil fuels. Do they understand that? Because what I need is that they're strong as to what the problems of the world are and how we're solving that. I need them to be strong. As a matter of fact, I will financially fund my employees that not one of them will be driving a gas car.
So
they won't be driving gas, or they're parking at 5 blocks away and have to work. Well, you can't park that on my parking lot, because that's not what I'm about. I'm about
Okay.
getting rid of them. So yeah.
So it doesn't matter which kind of brand, but you are rather focusing on like, okay, it should be at least a hybrid or electric car. Did I understand this
Not
correct?
hybrid in any way. No, not hybrid, fully electric.
Okay, okay. And are those people are out immediately? So is this a knockout question for you if they are saying like, hey, maybe.
It's a knockout question in the fact that they aren't strong enough to make the change. I see sophistication. I see sophistication in the people that have already moved to electric, because they're already well aware of getting away from the subscription model of constantly paying for gas, and moved away from saving the planet, which is what I'm all about.
Understood. So I'm just wondering, because you also mentioned some kind of other key facts about this candidate you would like to have for your company. It's kind of someone who's super dedicated to the environment, someone who really understands the outcome when we don't change our world right now, and someone, who is this hunger and also being driven to change something. Did I understand this correct?
Absolutely correct. I want people that see no boundaries. I've been a disruptor. There is, for people that use that, that's the way it is kind of thing, that they can't work for me. I don't see any roadblocks. Everything is wide open, and the imagination and creativity has to come out. So that's what I'm trying to hire. That talent is what I need, is creative people.
I mean, it's also sometimes a cost factor, right? So not everyone can maybe afford an electric car, but still they need to have a vehicle which coming from place A to place B. And I'm just wondering how like what other things they need to have as a employee for your company. So, and this is probably coming back what Anton just mentioned. I'm a huge believer in competencies. So if you are clear on the competencies this one particular person should bring with them, then you can create questions towards that. So if you say, okay, I need someone who is super creative, for example, then you can ask questions around this kind of competence, around creativity. So I'm not super fast in this, but maybe you can ask something like, hey, can you explain me a lot about your latest project, and there was kind of a roadblocker, or you had stakeholders which didn't agree with you. How did you solve this kind of problem? So you can already figure out how creative is this kind of person, how solution oriented is this kind of person, and therefore you also can make sure that this might be the right person for you. So I think that you should figure out what kind of competencies should bring in this kind of person, create questions around it, also figure out, okay, what is the ideal question and what is not a good question. What is the ideal answer and what is not the ideal answer. And then you also can score candidates towards this, and then you will find your perfect employee. And since I talked quite a long time now, I will move on to the next Harry or to Margaret. But Colleen, was this helpful?
Yes, it is very helpful. And as a CEO who has worked for corporations for 35 years, whatever, I think I will be bringing in the uniqueness of my benefits that I would give to my employees. And so there's going to be a uniqueness there.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, cool.
Thank you very much, Colleen. Margaret, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, firstly, in terms of the question that you ask, what's your favorite car? Perhaps you could also, or instead, ask a question, what is one product, design, or system you admire for its sustainability, and why? Because I think that can also give you an idea. If they give you a really thoughtful response about innovative systems or design they find inspiring, that can potentially give you also an idea on how environmentally friendly or environmentally strong they are. And also even just some questions about like their passion for sustainability. So for example, what drives your passion for sustainability and environmental change? Or can you share, so Anton was talking about the STAR examples and probing people using the situation, task, action, result method. So you can ask, can you share an example of how you've integrated sustainable practices into your daily life or work? Because that will also help you uncover their practical commitment to sustainability. And also you mentioned that you're looking for someone who's quite creative. So maybe even give them some ideas like, if you were tasked with reducing waste in, like, I don't know, I mean, you mentioned hospitals or airports, what innovative solutions would you propose? Because you mentioned you're looking for that outside of the box thinking. Or imagine that you're designing a zero waste system for a product or service we sell, and you can maybe give them some detail. What steps would you take to ensure that the system is both sustainable and cost effective? Now, these questions obviously will depend on the type of a position that you are hiring for. And I'm not sure if you're asking them any questions about, like, just to test their knowledge of environmental issues. So even things like, what do you see as the most pressing environmental challenge for businesses like ours? You know, or like what recent advancements in sustainability or zero waste initiatives inspire you, or why? You know, because that will again show if they're keeping up with the trends and innovations in that environmental space. And maybe also just like finally to check their problem solving mindset, I guess, more than skills. Maybe something like, you know, tell me about the time you encountered resistance to a sustainable idea or a project, and how did you address it? Or if costs were no barrier, what sustainability initiatives would you implement immediately in our target markets? So does that help?
Yes, all great questions. Yes, very good. I've been marking everything down from both of you, so
Okay,
that's great.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you very
welcome.
much, Margaret. Harry, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, in regards to a specific question, I was thinking something along the lines of how would you convince someone of the positives of sustainability? Because particularly if they're in a sales role or something like that, they may be met with resistance on the other end of the phone or whatever it is. So it's all about being able to display their passion for sustainability to other people and to kind of get them to move the needle on that. So that's kind of my specific question. I also think when it comes to these sort of out of the box questions, we just need to be a bit careful that it doesn't lead to a situation where you end up hiring people who you think could be your friend rather than your work colleague. And I always find that when people do start asking these sort of specific questions, especially around personality and hobbies and things like that, it could lead to a situation where you hire too many people from one background and then you're actually minimizing the diversity that you get in your workforce. One of the other questions, and this kind of isn't my obviously direct field, but asking people what they think of their last or their current manager, I think that can give quite a good insight into what issues people have and what they've encountered. And then obviously if you see yourself drawing analogies to the person's last manager and that hasn't worked out, that can give quite a good indication as to whether they would fit into your reporting system. So yeah, they're my points.
Everyone, thank you very much, Harry. Huge thanks to all three of you. Those were some brilliant points, and I really appreciate you for that. And hopefully you found them useful, Colleen. And by the way, if you've missed anything, I've put the YouTube recorded link in the comments of the event, so you can always go back to it and look at the recording if you like.
Thanks, Anton. I appreciate that. Yeah, all fantastic questions. I just want to say that, you know, working for a major tech company and then talking to the team didn't have the right attitude. Their attitude was the customer's going to tell them what they want. And I went, the customer doesn't even know how they're going to get. So in other words, I now know how most people think that the customer knows what they want. They don't know what they want. You need to be creative and feeding the customer some new ideas all the time I would get calls from Toronto going, Colleen, we have a meeting with the big customer. What kind of innovation do you have? If you're a tech company and you don't have innovation always on your books, like always, what's the next? I used to provide them lists because they didn't know. They were never prepared with what's the future needs. There needs to be a priority list created for the customer, how we're going to make you more productive, more efficient. So I'd say to them, make them paperless. And they go, well, how much money are they going to save? I go, really? No printers, no ink, no paper, no maintenance. Give me a break. It's a lot of money. And I don't know the number, but does it really matter? Like, there's nothing, people are driven with numbers. It's like the logic of change is far more efficient than a numbers game. It's crazy that the critical thinking skills of this world really can't do anything without a number behind it. It's nuts. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you very much, Colleen, and best of luck. Please do feel free to join us again. Would love to hear on your progress, by the way. So thanks for joining us, nevertheless. I guess a quick reset of the conversation for those of you that have just joined us. This is Startup Talent Q&A. It's our 139th session. We've been doing these for over 3 years now, 3.5 years, where the aim is to help startups like yourselves with whatever challenges or questions you may have in regards to your people journey. Whether you want to know how and where to find the right people, how do you decide what duties and tasks should one person have? How do you interview them? How do you assess them? How do you decide how much you should pay them? Or maybe you want to find a co-founder or an advisor or a part-timer, whatever it is. This is the place to be. We're going to be here for the next 23 minutes. Therefore, if you do have any such questions, don't be shy. Don't leave it for last second either. Just raise your hand. We'll bring you up on stage, introduce yourself, and then fire away with your questions. By the way, there are no right or wrong questions, and there's no need to be shy. It's a learning curve for us all. Now, if your questions today are not on talent, please save them for the other events we run. Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, and Thursday's fundraising. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And when we resume in January, we'll start with that. We'll add another 2. Those will be monthly. Second Friday of every month, we'll have a legal Q&A for startups. And third Friday, we'll have a finances Q&A every third Friday of the month. And that'll be 12 to 1 p.m. UK too. And by the way, for those of you based in the UK, we've got a WhatsApp group where we will be alerting people of our session. So if you would like to join it, have a look under the comments of this event and basically just click join. And if it's a UK number, I will accept it. Now, for those of you that are tuning in via YouTube or Facebook, please be aware that unfortunately, we're unable to monitor your questions now, so you would need to join us live here on LinkedIn Live Audio. You can do that either by going to startuptoscaleup.club, and that's where you can find Startup Talent Q&A 139, or simply just go to LinkedIn and search for Startup to Scale Up Club, and it's the last post there. Now, I've put in a question in the group chat with the panelists if you would like to have a look at it. I'll read it out loud, but just in case if Harry and the ladies want to read it for yourselves, please do so. So this is from a fintech startup in Bristol. She's focused on offering financial literacy tools for low-income communities. She's trying to go for Series A right now. And then she goes on to say, I'm concerned that our team does not adequately represent the diverse customer base we serve. Given our rapid expansion, what low-cost but effective strategies can we adopt to prioritize diversity in our hiring practices and ensure an inclusive environment for all employees? Furthermore, how can we evaluate and address unconscious biases in our recruitment process, especially with limited HR resources? So I guess two questions here. Number one, low-cost ideas in basically becoming more diverse. And number two, how can they evaluate unconscious bias in their recruitment process? So perhaps this time we can start with Margaret, then Harry, then Alex, please.
Great question, and I'm actually really glad to see that you're prioritizing diversity in your recruitment practices. I used to run some unconscious bias training, so happy to help here. So firstly, in terms of prioritizing diversity in terms of your candidate pool, firstly, so expand your different outreach channels. I don't know if you have a recruitment team. If you do, I mean, I used to work for a company called
based on their LinkedIn, Margaret, it doesn't look like they've got a recruitment team, unless it's external and it doesn't show up on their LinkedIn page.
Oh, no, fair enough. Then you might want to partner with organizations and job boards that are focused on underrepresented groups. So there's definitely Women in Tech. There's something called Black Young Professional Network. There's something called Color in Tech. Just Google that. I'm sure you'll find some other ones. I would potentially also look at some niche platforms. Like, I don't know how much that costs. I mean, low cost or no cost, I'm not sure, right? But if it's low cost, I would look at some niche platforms. Again, there's something called, I can't remember, there are definitely niche job platforms, like I think diversifying.io. I'm pretty sure there's something called Tech Ladies. Now, I was trying to find engineers using those platforms. I didn't really have any luck, but I think it's going to be easier for different positions. And also, I would make sure that your job descriptions are inclusive. So there is, I think, a free gender decoder. There are tools like Textio, or I can't remember what the other one is called. I use Textio, and there's another one. They're very good to ensure that your job descriptions are free from any kind of biased language and appeal to broader range of candidates. But I'm pretty sure there's something that you can do for free. So just try to Google gender decoder job descriptions, or gender decoder for inclusive job descriptions, and I think you'll be able to find something to just to make sure that your job descriptions don't have any biased language. You might not even be aware of that. And you would also, in the job description, you would want to emphasize your mission of that financial literacy and community impact, to attract people from diverse backgrounds who are purpose driven. Also, like, how are you leveraging employee networks? I don't know how big this business is, but I would definitely encourage your current team to refer candidates from underrepresented groups through some kind of a structured referral program. And then, if you hire them, you can pay them a referral fee. And potentially, again, based on the different types of positions you are hiring for, you might want to organize or maybe sponsor some workshops or webinars or hackathons on financial literacy and fintech, and targeting that kind of underrepresented talent. And then in terms of like inclusive work environment, well, I think even basic things like inclusive policies, so maybe ensure that the policies around flexible work or parental leave or professional development are designed to support diverse needs. Because I think a lot of companies have, like big things, like they have these employee resource groups and they have big events, but then if you don't have the basic things that people actually care about to support the diverse needs, that's actually not going to help that much. And then, in terms of hiring these people and evaluating, ensuring, addressing the unconscious bias. So firstly, there's a lot of research showing that using structured hiring process does reduces subjective decisions. So use a consistent interview format. You would want to have like a scorecard or predefined interview questions, and a clear criteria checklist that are focused on the skills that you are looking to hire for. And I would ideally provide some like bias training for interviewers. So there are some free or affordable resources. There is something that's free. It's called Harvard Implicit Bias Test. And there is also something I looked at a while ago, I think it was Google's unconscious bias training, just to educate your team about recognizing and mitigating biases. If you can't get a training, just there will be videos on YouTube, there will be just videos on recognizing and mitigating biases. So just even getting your interviewers to watch that if you have no budget at all. And also what we did at Avanade was diverse interview panels. So you would want to include employees from various backgrounds in the interview process to bring that different perspective and reduce groupthink, which is one of the biases. And in terms of accountability mechanism, it's kind of hard, right? Like, I mean, there are applicant tracking systems like Greenhouse that we use right now that they offer diversity analytics, but you can even survey your employees just to gain insights like how inclusive do your employees feel the environment is, what would they improve? So even just have a brief survey and set some clear goals, like what are your realistic diversity objectives, like maybe 30% of candidates from the pipeline have to be from female or from underrepresented backgrounds. So setting some clear goals would help as well. But I would also look at like different organizations that already have these people, so you don't need to start from scratch. So whether it's partnering with if you hire more junior level people, maybe creating with local schools or colleges to create those pathways for people from an underrepresented background to gain experience in fintech. If you can maybe afford to provide some volunteering initiatives, like invite people to participate in community outreach programs related to financial literacy, because that will also help with the connection to the diverse communities that you aim to serve. And I would also look at what are the programs that provide resources and connections to diverse talent pools, because I would not reinvent from scratch. Like I would actually look who can you partner with to access those diverse talent pools, and it potentially would be free of charge or very inexpensive.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Harry, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I completely agree with a lot of what Margaret said, especially the training point to train managers, because it all rests on them to try and avoid the unconscious bias. Another thing that our clients have been doing recently is blind CVs. So you can redact a lot of information that you don't strictly need to decide whether you're going to progress a candidate, and that can help avoid any unconscious bias. And obviously speaking to some specific recruiters that specialize in having a diverse panel and pool of candidates to choose from. I mean, the one thing that we just have to be careful of is when we're saying that we want to have a diverse and inclusive pool of candidates, we have to make sure that there's not almost a positive discrimination, and that we're ruling out other people in the hope to recruit people from maybe less privileged backgrounds and things like that. We still have to ensure that people get the job and progress through the round based on merit. So yeah, we just have to be careful about that positive discrimination angle.
Thank you very much, Harry. And just before we go to Alex, Harry, a legal question for you, if you don't mind me asking, because I've actually recently encountered this challenge.
Sure.
Can somebody sue your company if they can prove that you have specifically implemented a strategy to have, let's say, 90% people that are invited for an interview that are from a certain demographic? If you're trying to, like in this instance where she wants people to be diverse, or she wants to add diversity to the company, can, in general, somebody, is there enough scope for them to take you to court and say, look, you have decided to make it, let's say, 90% or whatever, it doesn't matter, of people of people coming for interviews need to be from this demographic, and therefore you have done wrong by people of other demographics. Is there room for such? Have you come across any such cases lately?
Yeah, so it's a good question, Anton. So what that would be, the potential claim would be something called indirect discrimination. So that would be based on the company implementing a policy or practice that then causes a disadvantage to a specific group of people. So let's just say, for simplicity, it was a British company and they said they wanted to hire 90% British people, for example. So that would be grounds for an indirect discrimination claim, but there is a defense to that if the policy itself to hire those 90% of British people is objectively justified. So if a company could show real reason for doing that, and it wasn't kind of racist or something like that, if it was to make sure that, I don't know, geographically or something like that, then that could be objectively justified, and therefore it wouldn't succeed in a discrimination claim. So I guess the quick answer would be potentially yes, and then it all depends on your reasoning for having those quotas in place.
So to give you an actual reasoning, a company that had 17 people start up, not a single female amongst them, going for some funding, especially from a sort of public sector, and then somebody like me, for example, or whatever talent person going in and saying, okay, in order to change this, we need to make sure that for every role, we're going to try and interview 5 people, and 4 of those people need to be female. Can somebody go out there and say, you know what, you're discriminating against men, and we're going to sue you? Roughly, in a nutshell. I know you needed all the details, but in a nutshell.
I would say as long as you explained the reason for needing more women in the employment population, that would be fine, and you would almost say it's because of equality and inclusion, and that would be a reason that would be objectively justified. So whilst kind of at the top level you can see why a man could be perturbed, but then when you dig a bit deeper and understand the reasoning for that, I think that would be fine.
Thank you for clarifying that. Really appreciate that, Harry.
No worries.
Thank you. Alex, did you want to add anything to the question? If you like, I can repeat it, or I don't know if you can read it in the group chat.
No worries. Thank you so much. I also like the topic a lot, and we did this quite often. Also, like having bias trainings. I did bias trainings also for my team and also for my hiring managers. I think it's a very interesting topic, and I think everything Margaret already mentioned quite a lot of points. Harry also mentioned really good points as well. So I think one of the when it starts, like, we are all biased, so, and we won't be biased, or it doesn't matter, like, so we can't, what I want to say is actually we can't say, okay, I'm not biased anymore. This is not gonna happen. So we need to be aware that we are biased, and we need to understand what kind of bias do I have inside of me. I think this is the most crucial thing, and then going from there and like understanding what kind of biases are out there, like how can I address them. And Margaret already mentioned, like, have a standard questionnaire for the interviews, have maybe also a score model to address candidates, etc. So I think this is super important. And also I agree with Margaret, maybe you will get some external help or support to really go deeper into this with trainings, etc. But as I already mentioned, like, it starts with I'm biased, but make sure, like, what kind of bias do you have inside of you. And when we are talking about bias, and she was also asking, okay, what kind of like, where can I find people and don't spend so much money? And this might be a very uncommon idea, but we are always talking about gender, we are always talking about color, etc. But what about age? And sometimes I also have the feeling that we are also quite biased when it comes towards age. And maybe you will find people which are a little bit older, but they are still driven, they're still hungry, and they might be also a good fit for your company because they bring in quite interesting experiences. And those people you might not find apparently in the internet or on LinkedIn, etc. But maybe, again, like, very uncommon, but maybe in the supermarket. So you have just a page in the supermarket, hey, we are looking for people, something like this. I know it's not very common, but maybe you want to try this out. And also and also make sure that your team is diverse, not when it comes to gender, color, etc., but maybe also towards age. This is my 2 cents.
No, that's very good. Thank you very much, Alexandra. Now we've got 5 minutes to go. Let's see if we can answer this question quicker than the others. Let's try and do it 1 minute each. So I'm the co-founder, and by the way, this is the question is in the group chat as well, if you'd like to see, team. So I'm the co-founder of a pre-seed AI startup in Newcastle, focusing on developing natural language processing solutions for customer service automation. With our limited brand presence and budget, we're struggling to attract data scientists and machine learning engineers. How can we effectively communicate our value proposition to prospective employees and leverage non-monetary incentives to appeal to highly skilled candidates in a competitive market? Also, what specific strategies can we use to create a sense of long-term career growth and purpose that resonates with our target talent? So, in a nutshell, how can we improve our brand so that we can attract people in Newcastle that otherwise would be going to firms that will pay them more and they're more established? And two, what can we do to give people a longer term career with us? 1 minute each. Harry, Margaret, and then Alex, please.
Sure. So very quickly, we're seeing a lot more that obviously employees value flexibility, potentially over even cash remuneration. So that's definitely something to stress. Also internal mobility, because you find that a lot of people leave companies because they're not able to switch roles or switch managers. So if you've got a company that is very strong and pro internal mobility, you can actually have people move to different departments and obviously save massively on recruitment fees and the slow onboarding time to get people kind of up to date with company processes, things like that. With regards to other reward structures, so you've got option schemes that can vest over a period of time, and that can help retention rates. And it's also just explaining to your potential candidates what the average tenure is in the company at the moment. Because if you're explaining to a candidate that 75% of your workforce have been there.
Way over the 1 minute. Thank you, Harry. Margaret. Margaret.
Okay, yeah, sorry, no, I'm here. Okay, so firstly, I would start with what's your employer brand, because you need to have a compelling employer brand to attract these people. So you would want to highlight how your NLP solutions are transforming customer service automation. You know, you want to position your startup as a place where employees can shape the future of AI. You know, and I would also share traction, like you are pre-seed, but what's, you know, do you have any partnerships? Do you have any pilot programs? Do you have endorsements? You want to paint like a really vivid picture of the growth trajectory, you know, and how the candidates will directly influence your journey. You will need that information even in job descriptions, I would say, and definitely when talking to candidates. And also, like, I would talk to them, like, what's the cutting edge technology they're going to work on, you know? So you would want to promote the opportunity to work on complex NLP problems with autonomy, with innovation. You know, what technologies, what frameworks will they get to use? And you don't need any money. You just need time to build your thought leadership on LinkedIn or Medium or industry forums by sharing, you know, different insights or challenges. And you can also highlight your team's expertise there. Well, and if it's not, I don't know whether 1 minute is over or not, but apart from salary, definitely flexible working arrangements that can help a lot of people, you know, especially attractive in the tech industry. Any kind of professional development, access maybe to online courses, or, you know, any kind of workshops related to AI and machine learning as well. And having some clear career growth plans. You know, how can employees grow as the company scales, whether it's leading teams or developing advanced systems or driving new research areas. So
thank you, Margaret.
Thanks.
Alex. Can you hear us, Alex? Alexandra, we can't hear you for some reason. Okay, I think we might have lost Alexandra. Hopefully she can join us quick. If not, let's see. Can you hear us now?
Yes, should I try it again?
Good stuff. Go for it.
Okay, so I will be very fast. So I agree with everything what Margaret just mentioned. I also I was in the same situation 10 years ago where I needed to find data scientists and also machine learning people. And as Margaret already mentioned, make clear what kind of tech stack are you working at, what is your kind of vision for your company, and why is it so exciting to work from a data tech perspective for your company. And this is always helpful. So I found people which we had no benefits at all, but I found great data scientists and machine learning people because they believed in the business model, and they really liked the tech stack and the flexibility about the company. And again, how to find those people, I definitely would say like doing direct search via LinkedIn. So these are my 2 cents.
Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Harry. I really appreciate your help today. This was our last talent Q&A for 2024. It's been quite a year, and I'm very grateful to your help. I'm sure it hasn't been easy for yourselves, especially in terms of deciding, how valuable this time is, as opposed to anything and everything else that you could have spent it on. I know the numbers haven't been the same since we've changed from Clubhouse to LinkedIn, but I'm sure that this is for the best in terms of streamlining our audience and making it a better audience for yourselves. So watch this space. We've got some brilliant partnerships coming up in the new year, and hopefully we will have your support again. With that in mind, any parting words before you go and take your holidays or whatever you want to do now for Christmas and New Year's? Let's start with the ladies again, Margaret, Alex, and then Harry. Margaret, can you hear us?
That everyone has a really good, relaxing Christmas break. I'm certainly looking forward to mine. So yes, hope that everyone has a nice break and returns recharged in 2025. So happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Alex?
Yeah, Merry Christmas, and who is not celebrating Christmas, a wonderful days off, and really take the break for maybe a reflection. It was a heavy year for all of us, probably. Anton, thank you so much for setting this up and being super flexible and changing things. I think it's super, super helpful for the startup community. Yeah, so from my side, Merry Christmas or Happy New Year or just happy days.
Good. Thank you very much, Alex. Harry?
Yeah, just to say, obviously, during the festive period, I think considering how intense the startup world is, to really take the opportunity to relax, decompress, recharge, and get ready for another busy year ahead.
Here and see you on the 17th, Harry. Thank you very much. Right, a quick reset, or not reset, a quick reminder rather. This, number one, this was our last Startup Talent Q&A for this year. We will resume on the 13th of January, Monday, 12 to 1 p.m. We've got 3 more sessions to go. Tomorrow, product and tech, Wednesday, growth, and Thursday, fundraising. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. Please feel free to join us. You can RSVP to them via our site, startuptoscaleup.club. On the other hand, when we resume in January, we'll add 2 more sessions. Second Friday of each month will be a session on legal questions for startups, that is UK law. And then on the third Friday of every month, there'll be one on finances. And that, again, it's 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. We will soon have all the Q&A sessions advertised and scheduled on our site, so you can RSVP to them. We also have a link to our WhatsApp group for UK audience that wants to kind of get alerts to future sessions. It's there's a link in the comments of this session, so please feel free to join that. On the other hand, those of you that tuned in via YouTube or Facebook. I'm sorry we're not able to monitor your questions, but for the remaining sessions we have, please join us live here on LinkedIn. Now, as far as the parting words are concerned, just remember, the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun in the meantime and be kind to yourself and everyone else. Otherwise, huge thanks again. Have a great day, morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are, and God bless you all. See you tomorrow for Startup Product and Tech Q&A. Bye-bye for now.